Hi everyone. So it's another live video. I thought it's a good tradition if we do live videos maybe every Monday at 9 o'clock. Why not? And today I'm going to speak about public speaking. Actually, it's not the topic that I have chosen, it's what you requested. So public speaking is what most of my clients require in a business setting. And hi everyone who joined. Good to see you. So public speaking does not necessarily mean that you stand in front of 100 or 200 people who are listening to what you have to deliver. Public speaking very often means that you will be speaking to one person. Maybe it's a job interview, maybe it's a negotiation, maybe you're presenting something to the board, maybe analytics, maybe your results, whatever. Public speaking is a skill that is required during the video conference call when you need to update your clients or when you need to update your colleagues on what has been going on. That's another part of public speaking. It's not a part of public speaking, I'm sorry. All these activities require public speaking skills. Public speaking in business pretty much means every situation where you need to speak and other people need to listen. All of them require public speaking skills. Every time you go to a client's meeting, every time you go to a sales meeting, again, you require public speaking skills because you need to tell another person what you have for them or what you're selling, or you need to introduce yourself. Even the self-introduction is sort of self-presentation, we call it, is, also training towards better public speaking skills. And if any one of you have been to my breakfast, you know that I always start with self-presentations because we do it all the time, every time, especially if you work in sales. Every time you need to go and introduce yourself to new people. However, every time I see that it's extremely difficult. People don't know when to stop. People don't know what to say when it comes to introducing themselves. And people have no idea how to listen to what other people have to say. So that's a big problem. And self-presentation is a very important part of public speaking when we practice it. It doesn't matter if we practice it during a course or if we practice it at breakfast or whenever I speak about it, or when my clients practice on their own. That's always the issue, self-presentation. So today I wanted to cover 3 things. If you want to hear about something else, just let me know. So 3 things were... I kind of just looked at it and already forgot. The 3 things were: do I need to learn the text of my presentation by heart? This is number 1, if you're presenting. Number 2, when is it appropriate and when is it not appropriate to introduce myself, to give a self-presentation? Introduce yourself, you always need to introduce yourself, but I mean to give a self-presentation. And what is a good ending and what is a good beginning of a presentation? My Bluetooth device acts weird, I'm sorry. So, has anyone here had public speaking experience? Yes, no, just give me... No, yes? Has anyone had public speaking experience in the English language business setting? If not, that's okay. My clients often ask me, how do I learn the text of my presentation? So the question already assumes that you have to learn something by heart. And to be honest, most people think that public speaking means preparing a text in advance and then going to the people, standing in front of people and telling those people the text that you have memorized in advance. And I don't see public speaking that way. Public speaking is more the energy that you're sharing with people, how you feel towards what you're really saying. Are you able to plant the idea into people's minds? That's what public speaking is about. Everyone can feel when you're reading, and everybody hates that when you read the text, especially even though you're reading it from your memory, kind of. So you memorized it and then you read it word by word, and the biggest failure that can happen to you is when you forget a word, then you're stuck. If you memorize something and you try to forget, and you kind of forgot the word, you forgot what's next, you're stuck. And this is one of the biggest pitfalls of memorizing and learning things by heart. That's why I would never recommend that. However, to non-native English speakers, that we all are, when we deliver a presentation, we're naturally very nervous, especially if you're presenting to the board, if you're presenting something new, like a new topic you've never spoken about before, if you're presenting to new clients, or if you're presenting in front of a big audience. What I would recommend is learn the beginning and the end. And this is what we practice with my clients at public speaking courses. We practice a variety of introductions and a variety of endings, and then when you're ready to stick with one introduction and one ending, we practice learning those by heart because it makes sense. It may be just 3 or 4 lines. How are you planning to begin? Because when you start, this is your moment. You're attracting the attention, and if you make a stupid mistake in the very beginning of your presentation, or you say something, you're trying to crack a joke that's not really funny, right? Or you say something that doesn't really make sense, or you show everyone that you're nervous and you're not sure what you want to say, that already sets the tone of the presentation, and you want to avoid that. You want to start on a very confident note, showing that you care about the people who are sitting in front of you. So that's why it really makes sense to come up with a good beginning and probably learn it and rehearse it several times. The same comes to the end, because people are usually very good when it comes to the middle of a presentation, where they need to deliver all the technical details, where they need to talk about their product and how great this is, and talk about the things they already know. The biggest challenge is to begin and to finish. So I always recommend thinking through the ending of the presentation, because every time we practice at my courses, everybody comes up with the same everyone has the same issue. They talk, and then suddenly, that's it. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. It's a very abrupt ending, and no one expected it, and as a result, no one remembers what the presentation was about, because you're not giving them a chance to summarize everything you've spoken about. And it's your job to summarize everything you've spoken about, because people remember what you say last. So help them remember. As long as you're speaking, you're in control of what people remember. So good beginning, good ending. And one of my mentors used to say, a good presentation needs to have, he used to say, if you want to deliver a good presentation, you need to have a good beginning and a good ending, and keep them close together. This is so true, because how you start sets the tone of the presentation. It attracts people's attention. How you finish pretty much defines what people will remember after you're done talking. And everything in the middle is necessary, of course, but it's not decisive. The beginning and the ending are really, really important, and you want to make sure you master those. So what is a good beginning? The good beginning is, I like starting with stories. Stories always captivate people's attention, and as soon as we stop telling a story, everyone is suddenly listening, and this is what you want in the very beginning. Scientists say that stories activate 80% of our brain, because we all naturally like them, and we're all inclined to listen to stories, and we all remember being told stories as little kids. So it's something that is unusual, it's something that is always interesting, it's something that people are always curious about, because you never know how the story is going to end. You don't know. You don't want to start with a story that everyone has read a million times on the internet. You don't want to start with something banal, with something too popular maybe. The best way is to start with a signature story, a story that has happened to you and is unique to your experience. That always attracts attention, and people show you that they want to learn what happened next. Then, if you're good at jokes, humor is a good strategy, but I would recommend you check before you give your presentation if people really react well. Because if you think your joke is funny, but in reality it's not, and people are not laughing, that's a bad strategy. So, questions is a good strategy, asking a question or giving a surprising fact. Did you know that 80% in our company are female? Yeah, 80% of the staff in our company are female, or something like that. For example, I didn't know. Did you know that only 5% of CEOs in America are women? Only 5. So I was shocked when I learned that statistic, because in Russia, 41% of women hold top managers positions, and they're either top managers or business owners. So 41% versus 5% in Japan and 5% in America. That's pretty low, and I didn't know that. So this kind of fact, or another good strategy, especially if you have 10, 15, sometimes even 30 minutes and you're presenting to your colleagues, is to tell them exactly what you're going to say. Because very often people start with agendas and they say, let me tell you the agenda of my presentation. I've divided my talk into 3 parts. We're going to talk about this, then we're going to talk about this, and finally I'm going to tell you about this. And that's boring, because as long as you're telling me this, I'm going to be checking my phone. I'm not going to be listening. It's boring. But if you tell me, and it's boring because, again, I talk a lot about being able to imagine things and giving people a chance to imagine what you're talking about. And this doesn't give me an opportunity to imagine anything or to remember anything. So, okay, it's going to be just another boring presentation, and I probably don't need to be listening. But the more specific you are, the better, especially if you're presenting to the board. And those guys, they don't like wasting their time, and they like numbers and facts. So if you say something like, last year, or in 2017, our sales grew by 70%, and we spent $250,000 on marketing. This year, I think we can increase our sales volume by 10%, and in my presentation today, I would like to ask you to allocate another $100,000 in marketing, and I'm going to show you why it's going to be a successful strategy. So it's a very primitive example, but what I'm trying to tell you is that in the beginning you tell people exactly why you want them to listen. You tell them, guys, we had huge success with sales. Let's do this one more time this year, but we need more money on marketing. And I'm going to tell you why we need more money and why you need to spend more money on marketing. And not just more money, but $350,000. So, it's clear, and it's like, okay, yeah, let's listen to what this guy has to say or this girl has to say, and why do we need to spend this money, and where are we going to find those resources. So it's bold, it's confident, it attracts attention. You're not beating around the bush, you're not saying something that is irrelevant, I would say, to the situation. The more you stick to the point, the more specific you are, the better. And people are gonna value you as a speaker, and they're not gonna feel sorry for their time spent listening to your presentation. So that's another strategy to start a presentation, being as specific as you can. But I like stories, honestly. A story about your company is something that is unique to your company experience, or something that happened in the office, something that happened at one of the clients' meetings. That's also good. Or your personal story, or a story that you read that taught you something. Stories are usually very, very good. How do you finish? I like when people end presentations, and I think it's a very powerful strategy to end a presentation with, again, it can be either a story, but a good way is when you summarize for people. You summarize, because at the end, pretty much, you decide what people remember. The last things you say is what people are going to remember. So the ending should be really, really powerful, and I really recommend people think this through, because it's a decisive moment. What you say is what they're going to remember. So if you ask people, it really depends on what you want people to do after your presentation. So this is another thing that we practice at the courses. What is your big idea, and what do you want people to do after your presentation? Do you want them to send you an email? Do you want them to give you feedback? Do you want them to believe in your idea? Do you want them to give you money? What do you really want from the people? So the ending of the presentation should depend on that. What kind of call to action are you suggesting? This should be in the end of the presentation, but it shouldn't be too aggressive. So, this is why please send $250,000 by tomorrow. It shouldn't be like this. But you want to summarize the idea for the people listening, so that they don't ask themselves, so what was it really about, and what should I remember? That's the worst, when people still, after listening to you for 40 minutes, they're still kind of, so what do you want, or what's the purpose of your presentation? You really don't want people to ask themselves that question. So I cannot give you an example right now because it really depends on what your presentation is about. If you can give me an example, I can try. So maybe in the comments, if you tell me what your presentation is about. But if you think about the summary and what you want people to do after your presentation, then you have, normally the answer comes. You know how to finish. And it shouldn't be it shouldn't be long, the ending, but it should be powerful. It can be a quote. Quotes actually work very well, and that's another one of my favorite exercises, when you have to find the quotes that really reflect how you feel and how you think, and when you can justify those quotes and when you can use those quotes to prove your point, that really helps you build a new neural connections, and it activates your brain, and it gives you so many more ideas. So when people tell me I don't know where to find motivation or whatever, I just don't know how they come up with this question, because if you can work with such simple tools as quotes, let's say your motivation is endless, or your inspiration is just endless, really. So that's another strategy. Quotes, stories, summaries, rhetorical questions are a good strategy to end the presentation. But everything I'm saying right now, this is kind of generic things. There is no such thing as the norm here. There is no such thing as a bad ending and a good ending. It really depends on the situation. You have to look at the result. What is the result that you want to achieve? The result would be that, in my understanding, that people enjoy themselves during your presentation. They're not bored. They remember what you said, and they do what you ask them to do at the end of your presentation. That's important. So if you want them to invest money, they come up to you and say, okay, how do we, we really want to talk about it more. If you want them to believe in your idea, they come up to you and say, we really like that presentation. That's a brilliant idea. Let's work on this together. If you suggest a new project, the same thing. They come up to you and they say, cool, that's a nice idea. Let's work on this together. Or we have the resources that you might need. All right? So that's your criteria that the presentation went well. People feel good. People do what you ask them to do. They ask questions. That's a good criteria, because when people have no questions or zero questions, that either shows that they're shy or they're bored or they're not sure, and you don't want to leave people feeling not very confident. You want to share your energy and make sure that they feel easy with you. They feel easy if they have to ask questions. All right, so that's another criteria in my world that works. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So, and the ending should be short, powerful, interesting, and sometimes in a way a little unexpected, maybe. So you don't want to talk for a long time and then people are already showing you that they're kind of bored and that they're tired and you need to finish somehow, so they're kind of giving you signals that you need to wrap it up. That's not a good strategy. You want to finish it in a bit unexpected fashion, so to show people that, look guys, it wasn't boring, it's not going to be boring, never. And that's it. If you want to have questions, if you want to talk about it more, let's do it. And you really want to encourage people to ask questions. So this is one thing. Another thing that I wanted to talk about. So we were talking about the beginning and the end of your presentation. So I recommend you learn the beginning and you learn the end of your presentation, because these are the moments when you struggle. You don't know how to start, and you feel, and very often the endings are weak because people don't know how to finish. They didn't think it through. Makes sense to learn those, and then in the middle, whatever you have in the middle, I don't recommend you learn everything by heart, because again, if you forget one word, you stumble upon one word, you forget the whole thing. Or it can happen that somebody asks a question you didn't expect, and then the whole thing, goes south. You forget everything. I really recommend you making bullet points for yourself. What are you going to say in the middle? Bullet points. And if you have a chance to look at the script, to look at your notes, you just follow the bullet points and you formulate your ideas. Of course, everyone has different issues that they need to talk about. Some people need to really focus on the filler words. skills. Some people need to work with speed. They need to speak faster or slower. Some people need to work on eye contact. Some people need to work on diction, pronunciation, tone, rhythm, different things. Not because it's correct, but because it helps them sound more powerful and more convincing. And it really suits their archetype and their personality. Okay? So this is important. And then during my public speaking courses, I never focus too much on technical details that are correct, because there are no correct things. There are no such thing as a norm. Every person is very different and very unique. But you need to find a personal style for every person. So somebody is very powerful when they speak in a quiet voice and quite slowly. Some people are more powerful when they're more energetic, when they work with their emotions, and when they can be a little louder. And actually, that's a good skill for everyone to develop, to learn how to be loud and to learn how to be quiet whenever necessary, and also know when to shut up at all. It's a very important skill. But everyone is so different, and I can only tell what we're going to do with a person when I see a person. When I see a person, when I learn the person's role in the company, when I learn more about their personality, I normally see exactly what they need to develop to be more powerful in their conversations. Because very often people, they have ideas about how they should behave. Someone told them that this is good, or they're trying to copy their boss, or they're trying to copy their colleagues, or they receive, I don't want to say wrong feedback, but somebody's feedback, maybe of a person who doesn't really matter, and they took it personally, and now they're trying to behave this way, but in reality it doesn't reflect them. And the energy is very strange, because there is always an internal conflict. They're trying to be their best because they're trying to follow somebody's advice, but everything inside them is against that, and everything inside them is screaming that that's not me. I really don't feel good in this skin. And it's very obvious to people around you, because people feel that I would say inconsistency, right? So when you are disbalanced, what you're communicating and how you actually feel inside, people sense that disbalance, and it's people cannot really explain it. I see it because I've been working with this for so long, but people cannot really explain it, and they don't want to sign a deal with you. They don't want to go out with you. They don't invite you for business lunches, and they just are not very comfortable being around you, and they will never be able to explain why that happens. But when we work very closely on presentation styles, we work on that exactly, because everyone needs a different thing. Everybody needs directions, and everyone needs different approach, individual approach. Everyone is very different. This is why I'm so against this standard techniques. How to stand, how to move your body, how loud you need to be. There is no such thing as everybody needs to be, because it's a norm for everyone. No. So this is what I think we covered. So the beginning, the ending, the middle, the bullet points. And another thing I want to talk about is how appropriate is it to talk, to give a self-presentation. I never thought I would have to talk about it, but the practice shows that it's not obvious for some of the people. I don't know why my nose is itchy today. I don't know why. Something's gonna happen. You never want to make a self-presentation too long. That's one thing. And you never want to give a self-presentation if no one asked for that. And you never want to assume that people know who you are, or people want to know who you are. People really want to be comfortable. That's what they want. They want to be comfortable around you. They want to make sure it's easy for them. But they probably don't care about all your achievements. They don't care about your professional strengths, they don't care about your career history unless they ask, unless it's a job interview, and then of course they want to learn about it. But what I see a lot is when new people meet at a first meeting, and then one person who needs something more than the other person, let's say if you're trying to sell something to a company and you come in and you see a new person, and then the first thing you do is you say, okay, let me tell you a few words about our company, and then you give them a 3-minute speech about something they never asked for. It feels very weird, and you don't know when you need to stop, because 3 minutes is very often too much. Or recently we had a situation where a person, we had a practice and feedback session, and let's say imagine that a company invited a painter to paint their walls, and they're just interviewing people, they're looking around, and someone recommended one painter who thinks he's really good, and that's okay, he has the right to do so, to think so. So a company invited a painter to come in their office, just to have coffee together and to see if we're a good fit. And the painter comes in asking questions. Why do you think you need, why are you choosing me as a painter? Are you sure that you need a painter? Can you please explain me why you need a painter? And I was like, and you know, like he's asking questions, assuming that the client has already made a decision, and the client hasn't made a decision. The client simply wanted to get to know the person. So the client asks a question. So can you please tell us how you work? What kind of results are we gonna achieve if we work together? And the painter says, no, you first have to explain to me why you think you need a painter. And because I'm a very good painter, so if you want to work with me, these are my rules. You need to explain to me why you need me. And the person is like, but I don't really know if I need you yet. I just want to get to know what kind of results I can get if we work together. And the painter insists, no, you don't understand. I have certain rules when I work with people, so first you need to explain to me why you need me. And that's the end of the conversation. Or what also happens is when a painter suddenly, like, and this is what actually happened, a painter starts giving a self-presentation. Look, I'm the most renowned painter, and I worked here and here and here, and this is what I can do, and this is how I work. And the client this is not really what the client wanted to hear. The client just wanted to have a coffee with the person and talk about the situation, not really talk about the painter's credential, not really talk about what the painter has achieved, but talk about the walls in their office or in their building, and here are suggestions what can be done here in this building or in this office. Okay? Sometimes people misinterpret other people's intentions, or they're completely blind and deaf towards other people's intentions. And unfortunately that happens all the time. And even I myself notice that I do that, and you really have to be very attentive all the time. We very often don't listen when people talk to us. We think about our own strategy. So when we come to a client, we have a strategy. We think, oh, I'm going to say this, then I'm going to say this, then the client is going to ask questions, answer the questions, and finally I'm going to lead them to the deal. And in real life, that doesn't really happen, because a client always has unexpected questions. A client always has something to say that we never expected. And then we don't hear that. We miss that moment when this unexpected thing came, and we stick to our strategy, to the strategy in our brain that we had prepared before. And that's the biggest mistake. You have to be very flexible in the conversation and always get ready to the fact that the situation is going to change. The situation may change any moment, and you need to be ready for that. So spontaneity is a really important skill. I would say when we practice, and when I practice with my clients, listening, short-term memory, spontaneity. These are the 3 skills that we really practice. It's not the vocabulary, it's not grammar, it's not listening, like how you usually imagine that, listening to TV shows and TV and whatever without subtitles, pretending you understand everything, or listening to dialects that you're completely not interested in and trying to remember what they were about. No, I focused on completely other skills that ultimately lead to a variety of other skills underneath those that help you understand people better, that help you communicate on a new level. That means on a new level of people, and that really help you to achieve what you want in communication. And we talk about successful presentations, we talk about sales, and we talk about I wanted to say profitable, beneficial, mutually beneficial negotiations when people are comfortable talking to each other. So the pillars are really different. And by the way, I think I'm at a point when I'm ready to create a system for everybody who is stuck at the average level and who wants to move to a level above average, way above average when it comes to their English skills. And I really let me know in the comments if this is something you're looking forward to or not. It's going to be all online, and my goal is to give you the skills so that you can work on them individually, so that when you do that, you don't need me anymore. Because if you think about me, I've never lived in an English-speaking country for more than 3 months. I used to live in Germany for 5 years, and yeah, this is how I learned German. But when it comes to English, and my English is better than my German, I've never lived in an English-speaking country for a long time, and yet every time I travel to an English-speaking country, they think I'm kind of local, but maybe went to a private school and developed a very weird accent, because I used to be in one school with a lot of international kids. So that's what my point is that that's possible, and I want to create a system for you where you can work on your own. There are going to be no deadlines, there are going to be no strict like homework or whatever, where you can work on your own and develop skills at your pace that is comfortable for you, but you will know exactly what to do. And when you do that, you're going to be motivated by your own results, and you will not need me anymore or anyone else to tell you what to do. And it's precious and it's priceless when you can do something on your own, when you develop a skill that's yours and no one can take it away from you. To me, that's priceless. So this is what I want to share with people, and I think I'm ready to putting all these things I've done in the past 4 or 5 years together and create a system for you. So let me know if you would be interested in that. Okay, I don't know who you are, girl, but you're trying to be in my video, and I'm gonna say no to that. I don't want people in my video right now. So if you want a question, just ask a question. Well, I think we covered pretty much everything I wanted to say. If you have any question, let me know. I'm gonna answer that. If you want to join the public speaking course, it starts on the 30th of July in Moscow, and I think I have 3 more spots left. So that's the news. The next breakfast is on Saturday. By the way, I'm going to create an event right now on Facebook. Saturday at 12 o'clock is usually. And the meetings on Saturdays are like absolutely practical sessions. So we only practice. So we don't, no theory there. Practice and feedback. That's the other thing we do. Public speaking course 30th of July. The online system I'm creating is going to take a few months, but hopefully, I'm going to let you know when it's going to be up and running. I'm now looking for a technical solution, and that's pretty much it. Do you want to ask a question? Let me know. And if not, I'm going to save the live video, and it's going to be available for the next 24 hours on Instagram. Alright? Okay, cool. Talk to you later. Bye.